Why don't we get started? Good morning, good evening, everyone. Our conversation today is with Dr. Kalpana Raval, and we'll be getting into that in a lot more detail. I just want to quickly go over a few housekeeping things. As always, please type away your questions in the chat window, and I'll make sure to get to them at the end. And stay on mute so that it's easier for everyone to hear. Um, if you're not already a member of the Longevity Lab, it's easy and it's fun and it's interesting. Lots of reasons to be a member and it's free. So just scan the QR code or click on the link. We'll send that to you if you don't have it already, and you can join the community. Um, as always, we have a couple of things that we announce as new features. One of the things that many of you are already familiar with is Dr. Kai. Dr. Kai has been active on the community where our team of doctors have been able to answer a lot of your questions. What we're going to now launch is a limited pilot launch of a one-on-one Dr. Kai. So you don't have to put your questions on the community. You can ask them directly of Dr. Kai one-on-one. And so this has been something a lot of you have asked us, and so we've gotten around to doing it. And so stuff like if you have a question about your labs, your lab test results, or you're feeling unsure about a symptom, you've had a conversation with your doctor, but you've not understood completely what was said, or you have some follow-on questions, we're here to provide clarity on that. We're not here to replace your doctor. Your doctor is still your doctor. We do all the things that you see Dr. Kai doing on the community, which is providing you all the rest of the context that very often you not have the time for, even though they might have the interest in doing so. So you can message Dr. Kai directly. What the way we have structured it is you get 2 WhatsApp consults every month with the expert physician on our side. Replies are guaranteed within 24 hours. And for each of these 2 consults, there's a 72-hour window after the consult where you can still continue to ask follow-up questions. Dr. Kai does not provide or prescribe medication. That's still your doctor who has to make that call. We are here, like I said, to provide everything else around it. The types of questions you already ask on the community today, but now you can do it in more of a private setting. So it's real people involved. We use a lot of tools in the back end, but as far as you are concerned, you get a real doctor answering your questions. And because we're getting doctors to do this who we need to pay, we are putting a small fee. I hope it's can truly be looked at as a small fee, 500 rupees a month, or $10 a month in the US, 500 in India. And we're doing a pilot, so we're not going to open it up to everybody. We'll do a few early people, check the feedback, whether it's actually providing value to you as members. And if it is, we'll expand it. But right now, this is what we are launching with a number of doctors who have shown a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about being involved with this. And our goal continues to be, how do we make this accessible, affordable to everybody and not just, the rich and famous. So we'll be putting out a poll right now, right after, actually, while I'm saying all of this, we'll be putting this poll up. And if you are interested in being one of the early people to try it out, just sign up on the poll and we'll send you details offline. All right. The second thing I wanted to announce is we are moving. Right now, we've been doing everything on the WhatsApp community circle. But the thing that we are finding is that WhatsApp, we're beginning to hit the upper limit of what WhatsApp allows as part of a group. And second is WhatsApp, on one hand, is very convenient, and we love that about WhatsApp. But the problem is community conversations are very hard to follow. They just keep scrolling up, and it's difficult to structure them. And so for these 2 reasons, we are actually moving to a new community space, which is a combination of WhatsApp and a website. And I want to explain very briefly what that is. So all your expert session recordings, like this session is recorded and sent later. Very often people have a hard time finding it. Now they'll all be in one place. All the videos we send, the 1 minute video tips, they'll all be in one place. The discounts, we keep putting them out that we are striking with various facilities. They'll all be in one place. All the conversations that we are having right now in WhatsApp will happen in this place where you get access to both Coach Kai and Dr. Kai, as well as you can continue having the conversations there. Our key announcements, like the talk is going to start in 30 minutes, or here is a link to the recording, all of that will still be done over WhatsApp. But when you click on any of those links, you'll be taken to the website where all of this will be much better structured and kept. Okay. So I highly recommend, uh, please make that switch over. It's very simple. It should take you less than 2 minutes. There is this link. We'll again send this link on the community. And after the 7th of August, we will provide answers on that new community rather than answering here. For a few days, we'll do it on both as a transition period. But after a week, we will transition answering everything on the new community. So it's already live. Things are already being posted there. So the sooner you move, the better. I wanted to just show you a quick thing of how it will work. So this is what that website will look like. And you don't have to download any app or any such thing. So you see this all section. Within the all section, it's like a Facebook feed. All the videos we post, the expert talks, the conversations, they'll all show up in the all section. You can also hit the plus sign at the bottom, type in your question, and you can start getting answers to that. Okay. Once you're there, the other thing you can do is also, if you look at the top, there's expert talks. If you just click on that tab, you'll see just the expert talks all in one place. If you click on discounts on the top, you'll see all the discounts in one place. Similarly, if you go to the top and click on health bites, you'll see all the videos that we post. So it's a much more structured way to access all the information, because we realize it's just getting a little, there's just so much. It's a great thing that there's so much engagement, but it's also hard to keep up. All right. So I'd love for you guys to make this transition. Like I said, it'll only take 2 minutes. All right. Our speaker for next week is Dr. Saurabh Sane. He's a physiotherapist, and we're actually going to make it a pretty practical, hands-on session. So, you don't have to come in exercise clothes, but it's just a few simple things that he's going to show you on how to, move better and so on. I think you'll all have a lot of fun being part of that conversation. All right. On to the topic at hand and to the expert of the hour, and that's Dr. Kalpana Raval. Kalpana is a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist trained at BJ Medical, and her bio is on the screen. I'm not going to read through the bio. In fact, that's a very, very shortened version so that we could fit it in one page. But, I want to provide some quick commentary before we get into it. And that is, Kalpana is very, very well respected and admired by the fraternity. I know before I ever get a guest on, I do my homework to make sure we are bringing the best of the best. And absolutely, Kalpana fits in that. I've spoken to a number of people who absolutely respect her, but as much as respect, she's also very admired by the fraternity. And I've had the opportunity to listen to her speak online, and her clarity and compassion, I believe, are very, very amazing. Because topics like mental health, they've usually been taboo for a while, but I think it's because of people like her that is beginning to change. And what I find especially fascinating, and I think we're going to get a lot into that today, is the fact that Kalpana connects how our lifestyle can be used to improve our mental health and vice versa. I think many of us often don't make the most optimal decisions when we are not, when our lifestyle is not in a good place. So, in any case, without further ado, let me welcome Kalpana to the conversation.
Thank you so much for this really, really to some extent, may I say, a very embarrassing introduction that you gave me. Uh, Thank you so much. I'll do my bit, and I'm very, very happy to talk about mental health. That is a topic that is very passionate, that I'm very passionate about. And let's hope that whatever work I do, that changes the outlook of mental health in some way or the other. Many people are already doing that, but well, I'm doing my bit, nothing more than that.
No, I think you're doing an amazing job, and I think it'll become clear by the end of this 1 hour
I hope.
why we all feel the way we feel. So let's start,
Absolutely.
Kalpana, with what exactly do we mean by mental health? Because it's such a term that's thrown around, but very
Yeah.
often people don't know. And I want to refer to something you have said, uh,
Yeah.
which is, you know, I think you put this quote by Sir Henry Maudsley, and which said, "Sorrow which finds no vent in tears may make
Yeah.
other organs weep." Right?
Yes. That's absolutely the truth. And Sir Henry Maudsley was a visionary, I may say, when he spoke about this particular connection almost 150 years back now. It was, I think, in 1832 or something, almost close to 200 years now. And we read this not in the book of mental health. Surprisingly, this was a quote that was a starting line of a chapter in our textbook of surgery. And when the surgery was talking, I mean, the topic was about gastric ulcers and the acidity, hyperacidity that people experience. And it was a chapter beginning to explain the causes and treatments of gastric ulcers. And we found this line at the start of it, which is very interesting that a surgeon or a physician was talking about mental issues as a cause for physical health problems. And this was probably just the starting point where people were not knowing about how the mind works. It was more of a philosopher's job to talk about mind, to talk about mental processes, to talk about thoughts, to talk about emotions, to talk about control and all of that. And it never sort of was an area for physicians or the modern medicine practitioners to work on, because it was never seen. I mean, there was always a sort of debate of where the mind sits, whether it is here, because when we speak in normal languages and when we speak of our emotions, we say from the bottom of my heart. But then there is nothing of that sort close to heart when they dissected human bodies, and there was nothing to be found. Then came the seat of mind as brain. And for a very, very, very long time, I mean, till very recently, I think we all have been taught that certain structures in the brain, they form what we call as the mind, or the seat of emotions, or the seat of thought processes, or what we call as the human mind. And we have been definitely, I mean, we have been talking of those areas in the brain as mind. But very surprisingly, the research that is going on in the neurosciences and in the field of generally medicine shows us that mind is not just restricted here. And we may be probably sort of revising our outlook of mind and mental health in the coming few decades, when we have lots of discoveries and evidences about what exactly constitutes mind. Because for till now, we were thinking of mind as performing just three functions, mainly three functions, and that's easy to sort of focus on: emotions, thoughts, and behavior. But then there is much more to mind than what we talk through these three areas. Now, if you take this outlook, mental health becomes a very, very ill-defined and very vast area which goes much beyond these thoughts, emotions, and behavior, and in fact constitutes a major part of our health. About the health as a concept, I think there as well we have moved from defining health as absence of disease to now the WHO definition of health as a well-being, a state of well-being in the areas of physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and sometimes even social health. So I mean, we are becoming more and more aware of the vastness and the all-encompassing nature of mind, which is sort of intriguing, very interesting, and so sometimes confusing as well. But again, the basics can be of great help if we want to just make use of it in our day-to-day lives. So mental health, I would say, again, it began from just insanity, definitions of insanity and categories which psychiatrists divided the patients in. But now, when uh, we again go back and refer to Sir Maudslay's quote of a sorrow which can result in gastric ulcers, we are again talking about something which is more closely connected to physical health, more closely connected to our general well-being. Interestingly, WHO a few years back actually released a statement which said that 75% of the non-communicable diseases that we know of as of now have their direct or indirect linkages to stress. So, and stress, I mean, we talk about in relation with mental health. So, you can see that even the physical illnesses, even the varied neurological and other systemic illnesses are all linked to mental health, and that is the vastness or that is the capacity of mental health.
Yeah, no, this is so fascinating to hear you talk about all these different aspects. Last week we had Dr. Sanat Phatak, and he spoke
Yeah,
about, the immune system and how stress plays a role in that. And then I think it
yeah,
all comes together. And I'm just curious, Kalpana. I mean, when you studied uh,
yeah,
to today, what
yes.
what is the change you have seen? Has this change been pretty significant over the years, or did that change all happen about 20 years back, and now it's pretty much pretty stable or steady with the rate of understanding?
I think it has definitely changed over a period of time with more and more evidence. We were definitely taught about this mind and body connection and the systems that are in play when something in the mind will result in something in the body. And it was all there in our textbooks, it was all there in our discussions, it was all there in our approaches to treatment as well. I'm not saying it wasn't there, it was very much there. But the clarity that we have today was probably less 20, 25 years back. We were not able to explain to our patients why you need to work on mental health to get physically better. And we would just say that just trust me, you have to trust me as a doctor who's a well-wisher, and you just trust me and do this. But now, since there is so much evidence, since there is so much detail that we know of, we are able to explain that if you do this particular psychological therapy, you are going to get better as far as your physical symptoms are concerned. And then that is, I think it makes things more acceptable. It makes things more, sort of, the patients become more receptive to these ideas, and thereby they gain. So this shift is certainly, I have seen in my career, in my span of career, and the clarity certainly helps.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And, you know, I keep reading studies that say that, exercise, it's
Yeah,
the impact is not just on your muscles, but it's in
no,
all these, myokines and all these that are getting released that seem to change the structure
yeah,
of
yeah.
your brain. And so, can you talk a little bit about what studies have, what some examples of studies or experiments that have shown the impact of one mind on the body and vice versa?
Absolutely. There have been, I mean, as early as, again, this Sir Maudsley's statement wasn't backed up by a lot of evidence, but what came as a breakthrough in this um, evidence creation of mind and body connection was a 1991 study which was published in New England Journal. And that was probably one of the pioneer and one of the most significant study that gave way to the further research in this direction. And interestingly, what they did was they selected 400 individuals, they grouped them into two groups, 200 each. And in one group, they actually gave a spray of influenza virus. So it was a short way of causing infection. And they saw the results. The other 200 were given a sort of placebo spray. They did not know whether they were receiving influenza or not, but they just gave direct influenza spray to 200 individuals. And when they saw what happened in the week after, just like we get some cough and colds because of flu, they just saw the symptoms, documented the symptoms of all 400. And what they saw interestingly was, even within that group of 200 where influenza was directly administered in the noses of people, only the people who had some psychological stress as a precursor developed the signs and symptoms. The rest of them, even when they had a direct connection with the virus, they kind of battled it out. Their immune system could tackle that attack by the virus, and they did not have the symptoms. So this was in 1991. More recently, again, during the times of COVID, there was again another such interesting study that took place. I mean, we all know COVID was really a scary phase of our lives, and we have gone through it more or less as a collective experience, very scary experience as a global phenomenon. And we all were scared in the year 2020 and early part of 2021. And I was working online most of the times because my branch allowed me to at least have video consultations and have chats with my patients who couldn't come to the hospitals, or they wanted to avoid the sort of getting the infection. And in my work, but collectively, all across the globe, what was found that people who were taking some kind of um, stress medicines, let's put it that way, for either anxiety or depression or similar situations, and they were already taking some psychiatric medicines, especially from the stress combating field, they did not have severe COVID symptoms. So what they did in Brazil was a study. Again, it was very important study that they, whenever they had COVID patients, they segregated them in two groups. One group was treated only for COVID as per the COVID protocol, And in another group, they gave the necessary COVID protocol. They did not deprive them of any treatments, but they added one of the this antidepressant medicine to their COVID protocol, and they saw that the severity of the symptoms was much less in the group that received these antidepressant medicines. So it's very clear now, especially I mean over the last 25 years, this fact has been knocking at our doors, and we better accept it. It's that kind of a connection. The main system, or rather main core systems that connect this mind and body, is what we call as PNIE axis, the psycho neuro immune endocrine axis. So mind, neuro is brain functions, I, immune is obviously immunity, and E is endocrine, that is the hormonal system. And this is like, I always tend to describe it like the engine of our body. That is something that switches on at the time of birth and switches off at the time of death, and that is going on and on and on. It never stops. But this core engine is what will determine how we function. As you can see, P is the first of the PNIE axis, and that's the mind body connection. So we can't actually have one system separately seen than the other. Now, when you said, I mean, this is what the mind does to the body, but the other way around, the bodily symptoms, very long duration illnesses, they will have an effect on the mind, and most people with long standing illnesses will have symptoms of anxiety, depression, exhaustion, or sometimes even enduring personality changes, as we call them. And that is the effect of physical health problems on the mind.
Wow.
Again, I'll take another minute, but I'll say this because I always envision this connection as a bicycle. And like both the wheels are connected with the chain and the pedals, rotating one wheel is definitely going to rotate the other one. You can't sort of have it stationary. And so if we start looking at this mind body connection as a unit more than two separate units, I think it'll be really good for having a better health.
Yeah. No, I think that's an amazing framework for us to think about it. It's not like, well, I'm doing fine body physically, mental is the issue, or vice versa. The point
Yeah,
that you really made, and it's very convincing, is that the two are so deeply connected that whether you know
yeah,
it or not, one is impacting the other, and whatever is the weak link is going to take the other down, right? So
correct,
you have to
correct.
keep both at a high level for your body to truly be functioning optimally.
Absolutely.
So given that, I mean, there are so many questions that come to mind, uh, but let me start with one of them, which is uh, lifestyle. How, our nutrition
Yeah,
affects our bodies. Most of us are sort of comfortable with that statement, but our nutrition also affects our mind. Exercise affects our body, but it also affects our mind. So it seems
true.
like all the things we are doing for our body are also helping with the mind. But are there things that
Without a
more,
doubt.
are there things, Kalpana, that are even more important from a mind perspective that you would say, hey, make sure in your lifestyle, m- incorporate these things because they definitely impact the mind?
Well, I think the most underrated and most significant of them all is sleep. So, nutrition, again, I mean, if you see our mind body connection as a bicycle or a vehicle, you can easily see how much significance nutrition is going to have. It's fuel that goes in. Now, if you fill fuel which is of high quality, your car or your scooter is going to have a longer life. If you are going to mix it up with a lot of pollutants, a lot of other sort of unwanted ingredients, it's going to get rotten. So nutrition is definitely to be seen with that perspective. What goes in is going to fuel and is going to have an impact on how your, again, mind and body are going to function. But again, like you said, nutrition, exercise, will keep that aside. One of the most important things to not be overlooked is sleep. People usually say that I sleep for 6 hours and that is good, or they take pride that I can remain awake for a long period of time. I have also seen some family members of my patients who kind of taunt them or laugh at them, saying that um, she sleeps a little too much or he sleeps a little too much. They are like logs of wood when they sleep. And they make fun of them, saying that no, no, you have to be alert, awake, and always ready and work more and not waste time sleeping. But I think sleep, to each his own, and every person will have different requirement of sleep. There will be different phases of life where sleep will be required differently. So on some days 7 hours sleep may be good enough. On some days you may need 9 hours sleep. Identifying that, recognizing that, accepting that, and working on that becomes your responsibility, and that is what you owe to your body and mind. Interestingly, I have a group of friends who talk about exercise physiology and the impact of different types of exercises on the fitness levels and all that. And in that group, one of my friends who's a surgeon, he had posted photos of a couple of pages from a book which talked about why we sleep. I think that's the name of the book, Why We
Mhm.
Sleep. And there was a couple of pages where he had posted, it had a sort of description of a study which they did with the basketball players in USA. And they just made one change to their routine. They just made them sleep half an hour more. Rather than sleeping for 7 hours, they made them sleep for 7 hours and 30 minutes. Or rather than 7:30, they made them sleep for 8 hours. And by just one change, they found that even their athletic performance had changed and improved. There was another serial on BBC, I think Ask Me, I'm a Doctor. And they again had done a similar thing with group of people. And if you respect and if you value your sleep, I think you have done the best service to your health.
Yeah, you know, I know exactly the study you're referring to about the athletes.
Yeah,
So I had actually heard that the consultant, the sleep
hmm,
consultant to the NBA. So it was an
yeah,
NBA basketball team, and
correct.
this guy was brought in to help them improve their performance. And they were expecting him to say things around exercise and nutrition. He said, "Look,
Yeah,
that you guys are already doing a great job at." And to your
correct.
point, he focused on sleep, and
Yep,
it was just this 20-30 minutes. And he put,
yep,
dark curtains and all of that. He changed the room so that, because you can't
correct.
just let somebody sleep for 30 minutes more, you have to do certain things.
True,
So he did
true.
those things. They improved their sleep by about 30 minutes, and then they measured before versus
Yep,
after their free throw shooting, their points per
correct.
game, and they saw like a 3 to 4% improvement.
Absolutely. It was a very, very visible change.
Yeah, and 3 to 4% at that level is huge. They're trying to eke out every 1%.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very,
I
very good example.
I speak to my when I speak to my patients, I tell them that don't look at sleep as rest, because it is not just rest. I was telling a school friend of mine who was resisting taking melatonin for good sleep. I told her that you try this and you see the difference in how you feel, in your blood pressure or in your stress levels, and you just trust me. She's my school friend. Still, she resisted. And I just explained her. I gave her the choice, but I told her, don't think of sleep as rest. Think of sleep as a different shift, because that is what happens in the body. See, just like in any big city, whatever repair work, whatever maintenance work has to happen, happens in the night when there is less traffic, when there is less demand on the infrastructure, the repair work is going to happen. Your body is cleansing a lot of things during this sleep. Your lymphocytes are looking out for potential viruses or infectious agents or some cancerous cells during night. They are being vigilant and destroying those risks, destroying those threats. Now, if you don't sleep well, you're stopping them from doing their routine work, and you're actually helping all those miscreants increase in number so that you have to fight another battle some days later. So, sleep is to be looked as a different shift of work and has to be given its due importance alongside nutrition and alongside exercise. Otherwise, I mean, like I said, you're actually um, doing disservice to you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's very well put. And there are people who wear these wearables.
Yeah,
They can typically look at not only the duration of sleep, but the deep sleep, the REM sleep. When a lot of this stuff is happening, even light sleep is an important
yeah.
part, right?
Yeah, but I'll just warn against these bands which monitor sleep. Sometimes they don't measure the data very accurately, and people can become obsessed with just looking at the numbers rather than seeing the quality of sleep as they feel it. So sometimes you have to keep the watch away. You have to just sleep and let your own self decide whether it was a good sleep or not a good sleep.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think there is a balance between data that is empowering you versus
Yeah,
data
yeah,
that is paralyzing you.
true.
Uh, Now, uh, with sleep, along with sleep, we did talk about nutrition and exercise. I think those are more like no-brainers. It's
Yeah,
clear, and I think you put it
true.
well, right? If the incoming fuel is off, there's not much you can do about it.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
can we talk a little bit, Kalpana, about there's a lot of talk about supplements, right? That
Yeah,
help with the brain. Like omega-3 is one of the
true.
more popular ones.
Hmm.
Magnesium, partially from sleep point of view, partially a high point of view. There is
Yeah.
creatine now that is being discussed because
Yes.
of the newer
Yeah.
studies. What is your take on
True.
all of this?
See, I think supplements are helpful. One shouldn't deny oneself the chance of supplementing, or rather, I would say, improving the quality of your nutrition by using these supplements. Because these are essential elements, and if your natural diet does not include this, then you have to use the artificially prepared or sort of extra supplements. But at the same time, again, one has to be very sensible about using it, in the sense that that's not the only area which is going to improve your mental health or physical health. If you take supplements but not work out, if you take supplements but not do your mental workouts, it's not going to miraculously change your state of health. So supplements are good. They have to be used very, very judiciously. Sometimes I may say that you have to also consult your physicians or your, I would say, health professionals when you are supplementing, because um, one shouldn't be one's own doctor. And you have to at least consult someone before you keep supplementing. There are regimens for most supplements. One shouldn't go overboard. And that is to be remembered. I mean, there's no harm at all. In fact, creatine is now gaining momentum as one of the sort of miracle supplement these days for brain health more than anything else. I mean, muscle um, is okay. I mean, people have been taking creatine as the muscle bulking agent for a long time, but they are finding some really, really encouraging results where people with ADHD, focusing difficulties, have found better results with creatine supplementation. So there are definitely these are useful, but they have to be done in consultation with someone,
Yeah.
someone who knows about it.
Yeah, I want to sort of highlight 2 points you made, because I think, Kalpana, a lot of the people on the in the group will benefit from just sort of reiterating this. One is,
Yes.
one shouldn't be one's own doctor. Even doctors
Yeah.
aren't their own doctors, right?
Not at all. Not at all. See, again, I'll use the phrase that I use most with my patients, that a very, very skilled cardiac surgeon won't be able to perform surgery on his own heart. You
Yeah,
have to have someone else looking at you from a different perspective, from a different angle, to have a better idea, better vision of your state, make
yeah,
judgments, and then give a suggestion or a recommendation. So I think even as a psychiatrist, we never sort of diagnose ourselves. Yes, we have a fair idea about what state of mind we may be in, but then we never treat ourselves.
yeah. The objectivity is lost when you're trying to do it with
It's
yourself.
lost. It's lost. Sometimes you may be, I mean, the bias on either side is bad,
Yeah, absolutely.
isn't
And
it?
the other point
So,
that I wanted to reiterate that you made is, and we talk about this a lot in this community, and that is, supplements are by the definition of the term, they have to supplement something. If you are
true.
not doing the basic things right, supplements, the second degree things are not going to fix the first degree problems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's something that we have to keep reiterating, that there is. I wrote a blog post about creatine and the studies done around how it's helping the mind or the mental health.
Yeah.
But if you are not exercising and if you're not eating
Yeah.
right, it's not going to help, right?
No,
Um,
because again, it's the whole system that is working synchronously,
yeah,
and you can't just focus on one bit and hope to see the changes in another one if you're not, just like, again, I'll go back to my bicycle model, that if you are putting oil on just one part of the cycle chain, that's not going to make it well oiled. You have to rotate the chain and keep applying the oil
yeah. I
so
think
that
this
it's equally distributed.
completely agree.
Yeah.
This demographic on this call will understand that. Maybe the younger demographic would say, what is a bicycle?" Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, true.
uh, so, I mean, there are a lot of questions coming, but I'm going to just ask a few more before we move to member
Sure.
questions.
Sure.
Um, you've referred to something that I think is so critical but is rarely understood. One of the
Mhm.
implications of sleep is,
Yeah.
if you sleep well, and not only sleep well, as in the number of hours, but also
Mm.
sleep at the right time. The whole
Yeah.
circadian rhythm controls our hormones, and you referred to hormones, that our entire body is driven by hormones.
Yes.
Can you sort of
Yes.
talk a little bit about the importance of hormonal health?
Ah, it's a huge topic. It's a huge topic in itself. But see, it's again a cascade of events as far as the hormonal cycles are concerned. Something that starts or begins here in one of the glands called as hypothalamus, and then from there it transcends to all the hormonal glands distributed all across the body. Um, it's like uh, how do I put it? Um, a very well choreographed dance. One thing goes wrong, and the other is going to see the effects of it. It's a very, very well synchronized dance routine. And for that to happen, you have to, again, allow it to happen. Now, I'll just put one little thing when you said about the circadian rhythm, though. Every person is different, and like it is said in normal colloquial language, some are owls and some are larks. Again, that is to be identified, recognized, and accepted. You don't have to make someone sleep at 9 o'clock sharp and make them wake at 5 o'clock in the morning. It can shift a little bit. Secondly, in today's day and age where work also takes priority, some adjustments and some variations need to be allowed. And you don't have to be harsh on yourself for not being able to sleep at a particular hour or wake up at a particular hour. Even if you allow yourself to sleep from, say, 3 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning, it's still okay. You don't have to wake up at 6 o'clock even if you have slept at 3 o'clock. So there are, again, individual variations, and that is to be remembered. There are also going to be phases of life which will demand different routines, and there will also be some circumstantial factors which will be impacting your sleep routine. But all of that is to be taken into account, and then whatever best can be achieved should be followed. So 7 to 8 hours of sleep, more likely in the night time, and more closely related to the sunset and the sunrise as is often spoken about, but not rigidly.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to add one comment to that. One of the studies, and I just saw somebody posted a link by Dr. Matthew Walker, and he
Mhm.
has done this interesting study where he found that, there are three aspects, right? The when you go to sleep, how long you sleep, and the quality of sleep. And
Correct.
he showed that if you could do one thing, which is pick your 1 hour, it could be 9 to 10,
Hmm.
it could be 11 to 12, whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
try and sleep in that 1 hour, because your hormones, he said, are more like a prediction engine, right? They're like, okay,
True.
typically you go to sleep at this time, so let me start releasing the melatonin now, let me start releasing the cortisol now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and to your point, we can't do it every day exactly, but the more we can
True.
try and stick to that, the better.
Yeah. See, they actually have, there was one recent study that sort of I happened to read, that was about use of melatonin for ensuring a good quality sleep. And what happened was they gave this melatonin supplement to people who were actually working in the night shifts. And night shifts are pretty common in certain professions, as we all know, and one can't help but work in the night. It's even if it's unnatural. So what they did was they gave melatonin supplement to those people after they finished their shift work, and helped them sleep for next 7 to 8 hours, whatever they could. They found that even in those people who slept, like I said, from at some odd hours in the daytime, even their inflammatory markers were lesser than people who sort of did not use melatonin. So, sleeping and sleeping well should be the priority. Like I said, as much as possible during the night time, but if you can't, don't bother. Try to ensure the quality of sleep. The body will try and get as much benefit out of it as possible.
Yeah. Um, the other thing that I had noted was this whole conversation about the gut microbiome, right?
Yeah.
How much that gets impacted and how much that impacts the brain, when the whole gut
A lot.
brain, right? Can
It's
you
a
talk a little bit about
hyperlink.
that? Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a hyperlink. In fact, it is um, very well known that as many neurons and as many synaptic connections we have in the brain, uh, we have the second highest number of synapses in the gut. So
Yeah.
this is considered as our second brain, and that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
That is the first thing. Now, gut microbiome, they have been of immense help to us. Initially, we used to think that they were just aiding digestion. They were just aiding in sort of decomposition of certain food elements that we were eating and helping us absorb the necessary ingredients from the food items. But it's not just limited to that. They are short source of multiple vitamins, especially the B complex ones and the especially the B12 that we know of. They do supply B12 at least in a significant amount for getting a space in our guts. But now we have sort of come to the understanding that they may be actually producing certain protein precursors which get absorbed through these nerve endings in the intestines, reach the brain, and then the neurotransmitters get um, manufactured. So, gut microbiome are very, very important. They have started doing experiments of fecal implants
Mhm.
on certain people with neurodegenerative or neurodevelopmental disorders. And they are very initial results. I would not be very um, sort of, I won't say that they are proven now, but there are some very initial encouraging results about the effect of fecal implant on anxieties and autism and certain neurodevelopmental illnesses. So, again, by ensuring good nutrition, by ensuring good sleep, we are going to maintain the pH and the different acidity or alkalinity in different parts of our intestines, and thereby ensuring that this flora, bacterial flora, is looked after well. It's
Yeah.
like making sure that your work environment is very pleasant,
Yeah.
and like your productivity increases in a good working environment. If the AC is working well, if it is well lit room, if it is a nice fresh aroma in the air, obviously you will feel like working more. So the gut bacteria, if they are looked after well by ensuring a good environment, they are going to help us with this manufacturing of um, neurotransmitters, and thereby the brain is going to be happy.
Yeah. I mean, there is just so much to be discussed on each of these topics. I think we require a whole session just on hormones, a whole session just on the gut
Absolutely.
microbiome.
True, true.
Uh, I'm getting sucked into these conversations, which I need to step back because there are so many great questions. So let me.
Yeah,
I've not even gotten through half of what we were going to talk about.
true.
So let me do the questions then.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so the first question, Kalpana, is can you comment on when to seek help from a psychologist versus a psychiatrist? In India, a lot of
Yeah.
mental therapists or counselors are really not psychologists or psychiatrists. So is it better to stick to psychiatrists even for regular mental health help, or not severe mental health disorder?
Yes, in a way, yes, I would say so because there are regulatory authorities which will be looking at the training of these mental health professionals. So psychiatrists do have to go through the initial medical degree and then the postgraduate specialized degree, and that is regulated by now the NMC, the National Medical Council. Um, that is definitely going to ensure that these are trained professionals. There are some psychologists, I would say, who will display that they are RCI recognized. So that is another council, Regulatory Council of India, which recognizes these professionals, these um, non-medical psychological professionals. And if you go to any of them, that is still a good idea. But just someone displaying something like I am a therapist or I am a counselor, or without displaying their credentials, without displaying their training programs. Sometimes even people have undergone some online therapy programs and then started working as counselors, which as a counselor is a big no-no. I mean, in our profession, the way my teacher taught us, she would always say that therapy is learned like the old Gurukul patterns, and it has to be learned by undergoing therapy yourself. She would make us sit in the client's chair. We have cried in those chairs, and we have sort of come across our own ghosts and demons while sitting there, understood how it makes a client feel when we are doing therapy, and the difficulties that the person may have, or the difficult emotions that the therapist will have to tackle by undergoing therapy ourselves. So these are some stringent training patterns and programs which happen only in direct and one-to-one training programs. Online teaching programs will give you theory, not the practical experience. And that is why, unless and until credentials are checked, one should be wary of going to a psychologist or a counselor. Having said that, now if it is just some difficulty, a milder kind of difficulty in day-to-day life, which requires a little bit of assistance rather than a professional help. Just like, I mean, I'll give you another example. Like we have cough and cold and flu, and it's just a temporary, milder form of illness. We go to a GP, whether he or she is BAMS, BHMS, or MBBS, or a very old school registered medical practitioner, but we don't hesitate, and he or she may be accessible. Our job is done. They are experienced enough and trained enough for tackling these kind of difficulties. But then for something which is like bronchitis, we are not sleeping well, we are not able to breathe, we are noticing that there is something wrong with the chest rather than just the nose and throat part of it. The fever is very high and it's not subsiding. We would definitely go to a hospital and the doctor attached to a hospital. So the first line of sort of this decision making will be your own, whether my problems are just sort of, I feel that I just need some assistance from someone who has um, read something or trained in that area and will be able to help me. But then if my problem looks complex, seems that it is not going off by going to a counselor who I have gone to first in the first place, then I have to seek help from someone more experienced or better trained. And that should be a good enough strategy to choose where you go. At times, if there are physical health problems associated with some mental health problems, it will be better to go to a psychiatrist, because then they will have the medical model while assessing your complaints. But if it is just relationship difficulty, if it is not causing any difficulty on your physical health, then yes, going to a counselor, going to a trained therapist is definitely a good idea, not a bad idea at all. One thing, again, a very well trained, systematically trained counselor will be able to identify when the client needs to go to a psychiatrist,
Right.
just like a physiotherapist who you have gone to will recognize that this is ये सिर्फ फिजियोथेरेपी की बात नहीं है, इसमें कुछ थोड़ा सा ज्यादा लफड़ा है. You better go to see an orthopedic surgeon, get X-ray done, get MRI done, and get your backache assessed and diagnosed, and then I will work in collaboration with the orthopedic surgeon. A trained psychologist, a trained psychotherapist will know when not to be too ambitious and take on,
Yeah. Yeah.
which happens in my work every day. There are so many colleagues that I work with, and they keep referring some of their clients when they see that this is affecting their health and will need a medical approach, at least for some time. So that's how I think seeking help from psychiatrists and psychologists should be done.
Wow, that's a very, very comprehensive answer. I think you also helped clarify the differences between, I don't think many of us, including me, would have been able to explain exactly what the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is. I think that also got answered. Um,
Yeah.
the next question from a member is, I would like your thoughts on a very specific question. I work with kids and teens in schools and middle-aged folks, teaching them mindfulness and yoga. Our
Yeah.
principal from school has specifically asked us to help the kids with anxiety since it has increased even more since the last year and is reaching the younger generations and noticing that empathy is phasing out. Any
Yeah.
tips and tricks that could be used or any books you would recommend for me to read?
Lots of material to be read or to refer to, but I think basic anxiety management, whether it is for kids or whether it is for adults or whether it is for even elderly, I think if you want guaranteed results and if you want um, sort of no doubts about the methodology that you are using, I think go to something which is scientifically devised and something that is scientifically proven. And that is one of my favorite techniques to go to every time I see stress, anxiety, and insomnia and backache. And that is Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation technique. It's one of the most researched techniques based on our meditative practices. Some American scientists took our Maharshi Mahesh Yogi from India to the labs in USA. They studied how his physiological readings could be controlled by some things that he was doing, and then they use their modern medicinal approaches to get to those levels, those physiological readings. And this particular technique has stood the test of time. In the earlier days, where in 60s and 70s, where a lot of anti-anxiety medicines, a lot of antidepressants had a lot of side effects too. At that time, they used this on one of the um, arms in the research studies. Like, for example, they would divide the patients of anxiety or stress or depression into two or three groups. One would receive medicines, one would receive just this relaxation technique. And they found that the older medicines, whatever effect they could have in a patient, this relaxation technique could have the same kind of results in those patients without causing the side effects. So, when in doubt and when you want the short answer, I think Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation technique is the one to go to. And whether it is in kids or elderly, you'll always see results. There are just a couple of things to remember about it though. One, because it is a technique which involves working with the muscle memory, it will take time to show the results. It will be about 6 weeks to 8 weeks before you start seeing very evident results in anxiety parameters or physiological parameters. And yes, person starts feeling good while doing relaxation right from day one, but that effect will go on increasing and compounding by around 6 to 8 weeks. And then it will remain forever. for life because muscle memories are very, very hard to lose. I'll just suggest one thing. I have audio links to this progressive muscle relaxation techniques. I can share it with Nikhil. I have made them in three languages, Marathi, Hindi, and English, and they are free to use. Use them anywhere and as much as you want. That's probably the first thing that you can do to help yourself. In fact, this reminds me of an incident my husband told me. He last year he had a patient from Satara, and I had released these relaxation audio links couple of years back, 3 years back, I think, 2022, if I'm not um, wrong. And that patient came to my husband saying that I have been able to manage my own stress by doing progressive relaxation technique for a year. I've also helped some of my factory employees um, manage their stress, but now it is going out of hands, and I would like to have a consultation regarding what else can be done. And my husband was so happy because this is exactly what we aimed for when we did this, that this is a self-help technique. This is probably should be part of our lives as a routine, and it reached somebody. So I think this is something that I will share with you, and you can spread it along, and anyone and everyone can use it.
Yeah. Now, this is amazing. Thank you, Kalpana, for offering that. We'll put those links into our show notes that we share after the
Sure,
call. So we'll get
sure,
those from you. I know we're running way out of time. Just a couple of quick things. One, the
sure.
number of people that are asking us, Kalpana, how to sign up to be your patient is there's a lot of
Oh,
background chatter. So, I mean, for
okay.
what it's worth, if I was living in India, I would sign up as well. So, I'm not surprised. So if you can also,
Well,
Kalpana, get
I'll definitely share my consultation details with you, and well, I'll be glad to help anyone and everyone who um, comes for help. So, for
yeah,
sure.
excellent, excellent. Maybe two quick answers if you can provide. I don't think there are
Yeah,
quick answers to them, but at least
I'll
give
try.
the.
I'll
Yeah.
try.
One is how does meditation help for mental health?
Yeah,
Okay, and second is, uh, and this is a whole topic in itself, which is
yeah,
menopause.
yeah.
And menopause requires, I mean, leads to a lot of unanticipated issues. They suddenly pop up and they make life miserable
Yes.
for women. So,
Yeah.
how does, I mean, maybe we should do a whole topic just on that, Kalpana.
Sure. No, no problem at all. And let's see whether we can work on that topic in entirety. But as you asked me to answer these quickly, let me try and answer them quickly. Very short answers, but I think they'll be um, self-explanatory. So the first question you asked about how does meditation help us? Um, Again, I'll go back to my example of a vehicle. Now, any vehicle has two components, mainly two components. One is accelerator, the second one is brake. Sympathetic nervous system, as we call it, or the fight and flight response that we have, or the stress response, as we call it, anything that increases the heart rate, increases the temperature, increases the blood pressure, increases the speed of thoughts, increases the actions, increases the muscle tone, is like an accelerator, and that is going to burn the fuel. Now, meditation, because it works on strengthening the brake system more than helping the accelerator, it will help us pull back when this system does not need to burn more fuel. People of my generation or probably your generation will understand a concept which again I keep talking a lot about, and that is idling. In my MAT, when I started riding it, it was a Bajaj MAT and my father's MAT. So it was an old vehicle that I started riding as my first vehicle. And I always visited the mechanic with one request. Uncle, can you adjust the nut? I did not know much about it, but can you adjust the nut so that I get the maximum mileage, but my scooter doesn't die at the signal, and I don't have to kickstart it. So that is something that I used to sort of later understood as idling. In our body, there is something called as idling. In our body, there is something like resting heart rate or a basal metabolic rate, which is going to show how much fuel are we consuming even when at rest. Now that is the reflection of stress. And this goes down when we do meditation or mindfulness or anything that strengthens this braking system, which we call as parasympathetic system. So meditation helps us actually um, use and utilize our resources very well. And well, one would want to have maximum mileage without much of wear and tear.
Yeah.
That's what meditation does.
Beautifully
So
put.
I hope it has answered. The second question you asked about menopause and perimenopause. Now, I spoke in the beginning about how this psycho, neuro, immune, endocrine axis is actually a unit together. Now, during menopause, everything is going to change in the endocrine system as far as the hormones in the female body, the estrogen and progesterone are concerned. They are going to now not run in the cyclical manner but gradually phase out. Now, for them to phase out, something here is also going to change. The stimulating hormones are going to reduce, and overall impact of this estrogen on the even on the muscles is going to then get impacted. So it's not just hormones, it's the entire body that is going through a transition that usually takes around 3 to 5 years for a female. So one shouldn't just look at when do my periods stop, but a couple of years before that and a couple of years after that is actually a period of transition. There is not much that we can do about this hormonal change or the physical changes that it brings about. But like I said, if you can partially modulate or regulate one arm of this psychoneuroendocrine axis by doing some relaxation techniques, by doing, uh, I would say, helpful amount of exercise, by looking at your nutrition, by making sure that you sleep well, that is good enough to regulate the speed of these hormonal changes, which are then going to cause a lot of symptoms. So just look at how to calm yourself down, regulate your sort of psychological processes, and you will be helping even the symptoms that you get during these hormonal changes.
Yeah. No,
Go
perfect.
back to the basics. I think go back to the basics is the mantra. I'll extend it by a couple of minutes. I usually talk to my patients about four pillars of health: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and relaxation. And I always use the adjective good before everything. So, good sleep, good nutrition, good exercise, and good relaxation. And if you have these four basic pillars sorted, your house is going to be intact, stable, and comforting. So I think just try and go back to these four basics. I think you will definitely achieve some improvement in whatever you are suffering from.
Perfect. Wow. I think that's a perfect place, sort of summarizing the whole thing. And like I said, there are so many other topics, but this
Yeah.
was absolutely incredible. Kalpana, thank you for taking the time, for being so patient and explaining things so clearly. I spoke about the clarity, and you absolutely demonstrated that.
I hope it has helped people to understand, and I mean, I've done my bit then.
You have
So
absolutely
thank
done
you
your
for
best.
inviting me, and I'm happy to be part of this discussion.
Excellent. Thanks again, Kalpana, and
Thank
thank you
you.
everybody else
Thank you,
for
everyone.
yeah. Bye.
Bye bye. Good night and good day to whoever is not in India.
See you.
Bye.